All right, I've been taking it a little easy on the breakfast these days, but maybe I'll have to whip up a full-on egg and cheese bagel sandwich tomorrow morning.
Nice. Chase it with the Dr. Pepper.
I'm off the soda, man.
I had a Dr. Pepper today. Yeah, around 2 o'clock. Little Dr. Pepper. I treated myself. Welcome to this episode of the Cool Dad Shirt Podcast. Yeah, isn't it great? You get a band that goes to the recording studio, spends $2 million on a record, and I just hold the speaker into the microphone, playing from an MP3 to broadcast it.
The royalties might be the same. I'm not sure.
So, I mean, I want to start off by thanking you for carving time out of your busy bagel making schedule to join us.
Yes. Well, much like the progression of our seasons, the progression of my obsession with bagel making continues. And it's been great so far. So I learned a few things. There's a few tips I want to send along. But also this round, I went right from scratch. As you may recall from a previous award-winning episode, we did talk about making bagels from pizza dough. But this time I said, well, I want to try something a little healthier, a little less gluten-y, a little less white floury. So after much work, I was very excited to shoot you a photo that I found some dark rye to make some pumpernickel bagels. So I scored on that, but you got to do it right from scratch.
Okay.
Which is not super hard. You throw it in the food processor, it balls up pretty quickly. It's not that hard, but it's very, very messy. Like the cleanup after making your own dough is a little involved, but completely worth it. I did learn. So basically, well, the easiest way is to have pre-made dough. Then you kind of like one pizza dough typically thing. You roll it out in a log. I cut it into 4 pieces. That seems to be the right size for a typical bagel. You sort of ball it up. Then you do like this pinchy thing where you pinch it from the sides up to the top. So it kind of stretches the bottom. Then you flip it over and you let it stand at room temperature for at least an hour. And that kind of gives it time to, rise a little bit more at room temperature. You then put your thumb through it. And you kind of put the bagel over your finger, and much like tossing pizza dough, you kind of spin it around your finger, and the gluten-y stuff begins to stretch out, and it makes the shape of a bagel. You drop it into roaring, boiling water. I found the first time I put it in a little bit too early, it sank right to the bottom and stuck. You need the boils, the bubbles going crazy so that it stays on top. You do it for 1 minute on each side. You take it out. Everybody said put it on a greased sheet. The first time it was completely epoxied to the metal. It was a nightmare getting out. The second time I put a lot more oil on it. It was slightly better, but then it was a little oily. So this time, now switching over to the pumpernickel bagels, which just came out of the oven moments ago.
I smell them.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you how they taste tomorrow. But this time I switched to putting cornmeal on a pizza stone.
Yeah.
And so that turned out, at least logistically, brilliant. As soon as it came out of the oven, you could lift them right off. There was nothing sticking to anything. It came right off. So I'll keep you posted on how that turned out.
So are you using a fast rising yeast? Yeah. Are you letting that rise overnight, or are you doing like a fast rise, one rise, smash it down, a second rise?
No, just a single one, and it is the fast rising yeast. The Mark Bittman in the cookbook I was using said for maximum flavor, let it. You can put it in the refrigerator overnight and let it keep going. You take it out, then let it return to room temperature on its own, and then go from there. But I was in a hurry to have something to talk about in this episode, so I went as fast as I could.
So for the sake of content, you rushed the rise.
Because Mike, I'm here for the content.
Yeah, that's all right. That's what
we continue to deliver right into season 2.
So we'll anxiously await the photos and the review.
It's coming, yes.
Price Chopper for the win too on that rye flour, right?
Yeah, no doubt. So Price Chopper up here in upstate New York went through a rebranding. They now call themselves Market 32. I'm not really sure where that name came from. So we're a little classier, Mike. We've stepped up from the Price Chopper all the way up to Market 32.
That's the Price Chopper off Route 7?
The one I went to, yes, is
Yes.
Route 7 Latham Farms. It's a very very big one. It's actually
Yeah.
okay. All right, since we're getting technical, it is Market Bistro because
Oh,
they have a food court in there and they have like a cooking school in there. So I swung
yeah.
for the fence on this one.
Long before they changed the name, when I was living in Albany, I lived closer to the one that was downtown Albany, and they referred to that as the Ghetto Chopper. And the
Is that on
one in
Lark Street?
Latham, yeah, Latham was the Gucci Chopper.
I think I was almost stabbed once in the Lark Street price chopper. That
Oh,
was sketch, man. That was definitely borderline.
it was dicey, boy. A gallon of milk could cost you your life down there.
They chopped the price, but you may lose a
Yeah,
finger.
you have to risk your life for Fruity Pebbles and a gallon of milk. A friend of mine recently asked me if Tom Morello was related to Joe Morello,
And
and
he thought you'd know the answer.
he thought I knew the answer because I play drums, and of course Joe Morello, legendary drummer, and of course I know who Tom Morello is. So he thought I would know and asked if they were related. While unfortunately they're not related, I thought to myself, how cool would it be if they were in a band together, though?
Yeah, keeping the tradition of like a Van Halen, or there's a few of those out there, right?
Yeah,
Family
there are a
bands.
few. Although Joe has passed away and he was quite older than Tom Morello, and their music styles were quite different. They were both extremely talented, so
It'd almost be a super group of very different genre.
it would be.
Well, I'll try to be with current events. Have you heard about? Everybody's talking about this woman Taylor Smith, and oops, sorry, hold on, my notes are a little. Oh, Swift, Taylor Swift. All the
You've been
kids tell
working on
me.
that. You've been working on that all afternoon, haven't you? You were practicing that in front of the mirror just moments ago. That's why you were late to the call.
I'm not sure I pulled it. It's a bit, man. I figured I got to throw a bit in here.
It was nice. You worked
Okay.
hard for that. You earned it. You deserve credit.
No, it is crazy, the phenomenon, isn't it? The
It
world seems to
is.
revolve around this woman. I got to give her a ton of credit. I really loved when she was unable to buy back her catalog, and she said, "Screw it, I'm going to re-record everything." Major props in my book for a move like that.
Yeah, despite how young she is, boy, she's pretty clever and pretty business savvy.
And can write
Just
a catchy tune. Yeah, yeah. No, she's got the package. It's hard. There's lots of reason. It's not really exactly my cup of tea, but I get it.
yeah, she's sharp. Yeah, speaking of music, underrated or overrated? Def Leppard.
Uh, can I say appropriately rated? I don't think they're either over or under. I think they're right where they need to be.
You'd say accurate.
I would say accurate, yes.
All right. Okay. All right. Fair enough.
It's difficult in my response. I can't just answer the way you ask me to.
Middle of the road, Rich, as predicted.
I'll give you
We're
a
not
few more.
we're not losing any listeners this week. Sticks.
Why can't I just answer these things? I I think the Dennis DeYoung material is a little overrated, and I think the Tommy Shaw stuff is a little underrated. And Tommy Shaw is a great songwriter, a great guitar player. I've always been a fan of his songs. The bigger hits were always Dennis DeYoung's, but who am I?
All right. I'll do one more because this is so much fun. Boston.
Dude, I can't.
Accurate.
They are so overproduced. They're a little bit corporate rock radio in their profile, but everybody in that band was super awesome. Tom Schultz is a genius. I think he was an electrical engineer for MIT or something. He made amplifiers. He multi-tracked what he did was amazing, but it ended up highly produced corporate rock radio. Yes.
All right. A fair assessment. It's a fair assessment.
I can't believe you still ask me these questions when I can't just pick one or the other.
That's all right. There's going to be more. I thought this might be a fun ongoing segment, calling it underrated and overrated. And I'll throw a few choices out there, and I'll see what and how you respond.
That sounds good.
I wanted to ask you. I know you are a coffee connoisseur, and maybe this has been around for a while, and I just haven't noticed. But Adding olive oil to your coffee seems to be all the rage right now. Is this something that's been happening a long time and has only surfaced, or is this sort of a new interest?
I'm not sure when it started. I also heard about it, and I'm completely intrigued. Despite not really liking olives, I do really, really like olive oil. It's a very strange thing. I don't know why, but I can put olive oil on everything. On popcorn is one of my favorite things. I heard about that, and I kept thinking I should try that sometime, and I don't know why it feels so wrong to do. It's not that big a deal. I don't know why I just don't try it. But yeah, I don't know. Have you tried it yet?
I have not. And it's funny that you mentioned your dislike for olives. I'm the same way. I hate olives. I don't enjoy any of them, red, green. I don't like any of them. But olive oil, I love it and I enjoy it. I have not added it to my coffee at all. I guess I'm slightly curious. I don't know if it would alter the taste.
Yeah, like anything else, you want high end coffee. I mean, if that's what you're going for, I mean, I think you want the best of things. You know what? I promise to try that before our next recording.
All right. I'll try to do the same. We can report back on it. What do you, I know you have a Keurig you said at work. What kind of K cups are you brewing in that thing? What
So
brand?
I have completely stopped doing that.
Oh,
I uh, I just don't do that anymore. I've been making it at home. I like it better when I make it from home. I have a one of those insulated tumblers. It's not a
okay.
Stanley. It's not a Stanley.
It's not
Sorry,
a Stanley.
I
It's
hate
not
to
a Stanley Cup.
disappoint. Maybe someday I'll work our way up to that. But no, so I used to. What did I get? I liked the Green Mountain coffee. They had a was it Dark Magic? I like dark brews. So I used to get the Green Mountain coffee, the Dark Magic, which was very reasonably priced and very tasty. So that was my K cup of choice up until a few months ago.
Okay. Yeah, I was curious.
How about you? When you need something quick, what do you grab? What's your go to?
I have tried a few, but I like the Lavazza the best. I go
Okay.
for the Lavazza. I try to buy it when it's on sale. It's a little pricey. It's good. I like the dark roast. They have like a dark bold one. It's pretty tasty. It's got some nice flavor. It's kind of smooth.
And proper Italian, like you.
I I, I try. It just happens to be the one I like though.
Hey, speaking of olives, fun fact: I learned.
And Italians?
No, we're gonna head this a little bit toward a martini.
Okay.
Um, I found out it's tradition or custom when you make a martini. If you put olives in it, you're always supposed to use an odd number. You do one or three. You never put two in.
Okay.
It's a solitary, or you go for three. Don't ever use an even number of olives in your martini.
All right.
Fun fact.
Is it a luck or is it a balance, a visual balance?
I think it's an aesthetic. I believe it's an
Yeah.
aesthetic. Yeah, yeah.
Hey, I didn't realize this till recently because I don't go there that often, but apparently McDonald's stopped serving breakfast all day. And I know you wouldn't know this because you would never ever even consider going to McDonald's. So I'll just keep talking and you could just sit back and
I'll
listen.
not
you
mind
don't
that.
you don't have to comment at all on this.
No, it's a travesty. That was kind of always their thing, right? The
Well,
beauty the beauty of it is you could get eggs all day, an egg McMuffin at 4 p.m. if you wanted.
yeah, and it took them years to finally figure that out. And when they did, it was a home run, breakfast all day. How perfect. And all I thought to myself was, even if I've never ever been able, despite getting up very early, I've never been able to get there before 10:30 to get breakfast from them anyway. It's like if I have the capacity to get there before 10:30 in the morning, clearly I have the ability to make my own breakfast. The reason why I'm going there at like 2 o'clock, the day has gotten away from me, and I am in no position to get some eggs. And I am relying 100% on the beauty and the convenience of McDonald's to provide me with that. And now, like everything else, if I'm going to get up before 10:30, I'm going to make my own breakfast. I'm not going to rely on McDonald's now.
And it was a staple you could count on for
You
decades.
No more. Gone are the days of McDonald's breakfast all day.
I don't know. When my kids were younger, we loved breakfast for dinner. That was kind of a thing. I mean, there's a charm in that McDonald's seemed to have figured out, and now they're moving away from it.
We just had breakfast for dinner, as a matter of fact. Before the call, I
Yeah.
had pancakes and bacon and a cup of tea.
No kidding. Wow,
Yeah.
that's brilliant.
Yep. We love breakfast for dinner.
Speaking of confusing things, so Because I fancy myself a photographer. I get a lot of marketing through Instagram and stuff like that for photo related things. And the recurring ad I get all the time is a class to get better at taking photos with your iPhone. And the thing that cracks me up, the first line is always, "Here are things Apple does not want you to know." And I completely, I mean, it's a marketing shtick, there's a point to that, like, oh, you're missing out on something, but it makes absolutely why would Apple not want me to know how to change my exposure on the fly? You would think they would want me to get really good at taking photos with their iPhone and saying, look at the great photo I took with my iPhone. But the marketing tool of manipulating people that way just
Yeah.
makes me laugh every time that stupid thing pops up.
At the end of the training session, the module, it says, "This training has been provided by Apple."
Exactly. The logo in the lower
Yeah.
corner. Yeah.
A bit, yeah, bite out of the apple.
We definitely don't want you taking awesome photos with our device.
You're listening to the Cool Dad Shirt Podcast with Rich and Mike.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram, where you can post a comment or DM us a question. Thanks for listening.
I actually saw a guy trying to outrun a police officer the other day.
No kidding.
Yeah, I've never seen anything as crazy as this.
What happened?
I was in the left lane. So down on Long Island, we have 3 lanes of east and westbound traffic, and then there's an HOV lane. So 3 lanes and an HOV lane, east and west. And if you don't know about the HOV lane, it's high occupancy vehicles. So if you have 2 or more people in the car, or if you have a clean pass car, hybrid or electric, you can drive in the HOV lane. And typically the traffic moves at a much faster rate of speed in the HOV lane because people aren't trying to exit. So I was in the left lane right next to the HOV lane. In the rearview mirror, I saw a car riding on the outer shoulder of the HOV lane up against that cement, that concrete divider. In some places, there's more or less space on that shoulder, but there's always all sorts of debris and sand and gravel and junk that just collects there. I just saw this car on the left side of the HOV lane on the shoulder and a cloud of dust being kicked up everywhere. And they went screaming by us extremely fast. And I thought the thing was going to end up in an accident where a lot of people got hurt, but it just continued moving. And I unfortunately had to get off at my exit. So I did not have a chance to see how it ended. I suspect, they set up a car further down and they roadblocked him and caught him. But I've never seen anybody try to outrun a cop in a car. I've seen people do it on motorcycles, but
it just straight out on an expressway, just pedal to the floor.
Yeah, they were going quick.
I remember my time in Michigan when I wasn't following Dr. Kevorkian. I was on a freeway one time, and it was just moving really slow, like 5 miles an hour or something like that. And some guy came flying up in the left shoulder. It wasn't a legitimate lane, but there was enough room to get a car there. And he just went screaming past all the slow-moving vehicles. And about 2 minutes later, we had inched up to find there was a police car in that lane. And the guy, you saw these long skid marks leading right up to the police car. And the guy had nowhere to go. And we all got to go by at like 3 miles an hour and watch the cop having a conversation with the very ambitious young man. It was street justice, man. It felt good to watch that clown get spoken to.
Yeah, I'm sure he left with some paperwork. That's for sure.
He left with he had some forms to fill out later. Yep.
Yeah. Had some checks to write.
It ended in some checks, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, despite my lengthy note, I feel like I'm out of topics over here.
My next door neighbor, I was over at his house the other day, and Nick, his father, had this huge collection of vinyl, lots of old records, and he continued it. But of course, as time goes on, you move on to the CDs. It's a little more convenient. But as you know, there's been a huge resurgence in vinyl, and he found an old record player, and he took some albums or borrowed some from his father, and he's been playing them at his house. And we've become so accustomed. The maniacs will tell you all the differences between CDs and record albums, and I think there is a little bit to them. There's definitely a little bit more of a warmth. it comes from an analog signal, and if you A/B it, you probably can tell a slight difference, but still pretty good. But we've moved on into MP3s and even the streaming, which is arguably highly compressed and not quite as high fidelity as previous recordings that we've always enjoyed. And I think collectively we've reset ourselves to that level. It was quite magical. He put on the other day an old Jimi Hendrix album, which was a collection of multiple shows from 1968. So however many shows he played in 1968, they took the best of each song and put them together in a collection. And it was an awesome audio experience to hear 60s analog recording on a turntable.
Yeah.
It was magical, my friend. And it wasn't, I really think it was, because I'm a little skeptical. I'm not one of those crazy audiophiles, but it was definitely noticeable, and it was a delight.
Yeah, sonically, it's so much nicer, especially if you have something a little larger than some bookshelf speakers too.
Yeah. It was magical. It took me back. I'm glad, we have a foot in each camp. We were all analog when we were young, and now we're into the efficiency and the wonderfulness of discovering new music with streaming services. But yeah, what an event.
Regrettably, I got rid of all my vinyl, and I had stacks and stacks and stacks. For space savings, they took up so much room, and the storage, it was a lot.
Well, it's great to see kids getting back into it too. My youngest daughter was at her grandmother's house and was up in the attic and found some ancient albums like Madonna and Footloose and a few others that were like the real first press. It was wonderful. Well, I mean, decades before she was born is what I'm saying.
Yeah, 1983.
Well, maybe not to us, but
no, I know.
But anyway, she brought them home. We got a very inexpensive record player.
Yeah.
And she has since bought Taylor Swift's new albums and stuff like that on vinyl, just for the experience of hearing it that way. I keep promising that we're going to pipe it into a high quality sound system, but there is something great, and it's wonderful to see the kids connecting to what we grew up with.
Yeah, that tangibility, right? You hold it, you look at it. There's stuff in there to read, some pictures. It's a much different listening experience.
So we're actually recording this before the Super Bowl, but the magic of editing, we can actually change this into getting our predictions correct by the time of release.
Yeah.
Oh, one other housekeeping thing we need to talk about. The previous episode, Mike and I had a few things to say about Spotify. In retrospect, we probably shouldn't be flaming out on one of our platforms. Spotify is by far and away the biggest distributor of the Cool Dad Shirt podcast. And we had some gentle recommendations of ways to make it better. We still are huge proponents. I listen to most of my music and podcasts on Spotify. So sorry about that. We still love you, but here's some helpful tips to maybe make your algorithms a little better.
I'm still paying for my subscription happily.
Yes. They haven't turned us off yet, so
no. One of the few subscriptions that I am not even considering canceling.
Yes.
My daughter had her friend's birthday party last weekend or the weekend before, somewhere in between show recordings. So she had about 12 friends over. I don't know what kids are eating or what's going on, but I was by far the shortest person there of all her friends. I literally felt like a 7th grader at a senior high school party.
The teenage girls were taller?
Yeah, it was about 12, 16-year-olds. They were all taller than me.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hats off to vitamins and better nutrition.
Genetics, I don't know what it was, but my daughter is close to the same height as me, which probably won't last for too long because I suspect she'll be a little bit taller than me, but all of her friends for sure, had at least an inch or two on me.
That is fascinating.
Yeah. And it was shoes off too. It wasn't like Ugg slippers or any other shoes like that. They were all shoes off, socks on, taller than me.
Yeah, and you sent me a photo of the array of Ugg slippers.
Yeah, you saw.
Yes, it looked like a resort with everybody just shuffling around. But no, that's how people go out today.
Yeah, there was quite an assortment of camel color Ugg slippers.
Did did everybody go home with the pair they showed up with?
I think they all went on with the right pairs. I'm not sure. They were all just enough different.
Okay.
I've taken a look. So since we started recording the show, I've had this running list, and I am up to, we didn't talk about all of them, but I'm up to 313 lines of things to talk about on the show.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah.
And we improvised a ton of stuff. So,
yeah, I would say 95% of what's on here we've touched upon on the shows.
oh, good.
Which is unfortunate because it leaves me with nothing else now to talk about.
We are. Sorry, folks. We're at the end. It was a good run.
That's it.
Send your ideas or insults via our Instagram account.
Oh, here is something that I wanted to mention. Our good friend Christopher Walken will be starring in a Super Bowl commercial this weekend.
Yeah, I watched the preview.
What do you think?
Clearly, Hollywood is listening to this podcast. The more Walken, the better, right?
Talking like Walken.
Oh, that was the actual name of it. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
I don't know if they had a title for the commercial, but they referenced that, Talking Like Walken, which is brilliant.
Yeah, that is brilliant. Makes me want to buy a BMW.
I forget what he says at the beginning, too. I think it's something like, this is the real deal here. It's all electric.
Your impression is coming along. Like, good job.
I got to work on it. It would have been great if they had David Grohl on there. Foo Fighters.
It never gets old.
It does.
And the cowbell sketch is, dude, I don't think I can go 6 months. Inside every 6 months, I hear somebody making some sort of reference directly or indirectly to that sketch.
It's unbelievable how many people are familiar with that.
Yeah.
But I was happy he was in a commercial and thought it was fun and glad the guy is still extremely relevant today.
And very funny. He was kind of laughing at himself, and it was great.
Yeah, I wonder how you pitch that to him. So, like, it's Mr. Walken. So, Mr. Walken, we would love if you would perhaps consider starring in a commercial, and of course, you'll get paid well, and we'll give you whatever BMW you want. And he's probably like, "I'm busy, but that sounds fantastic." So I don't know what he would have said, but he would have probably said something like that. And then they said, well, here's the part that you may not like, Mr. Walken. There's going to be people imitating the way you talk on the commercial.
But I get to pick my own car.
Does it have to be electric or can it be fuel?
So
I still like the gas guzzlers. I have no idea what kind of impersonation that is.
I can't wait to. I got places to be. I can't charge this.
Christopher Walken's so busy he doesn't have time to charge.
Can you imagine him pacing around a chart, muttering to himself, angrily pacing back and forth, waiting for the stupid electric to charge?
He's in a rush. The movies that girls and women like are usually quite different from the movies that guys like. And I won't get into, guys like these movies and girls like these, but I did notice a reoccurring theme on I don't want to say like a girly movie, but there's a general theme that I've noticed that reoccurs in many movies. The theme is a couple is busy working and one of them, wants to pursue their writing, and they decide, of course, to move off into the country. And that's where I'll get my inspiration to write. That's how it starts. And then the next phase is that there's always some sort of cheating. And then all of a sudden, one of them gets murdered. And I noticed that reoccurring theme in many movies.
It's a bit of a formula, huh?
Yeah, it is. My wife was watching a movie with that whole premise recently. Maybe it was a true story. It could have even been a true story, but it was a movie or a story, and that was the whole storyline.
So I think the guy equivalent of that is Funny Farm with Chevy Chase, where he decides to move. He and his wife move up to Vermont so he can write. It does not end with a murder, however. Just guy sophomoric hilarity is how that one ends.
He's trying to unload the house and just can't do it.
Oh, it's coming back. Yeah, he's paying all the townspeople piles of money.
$50. He pays the mailman to be friendly.
The drunken mailman.
When the people are looking out the window, they go, cue the fawn. They release a deer.
Oh, honey, look, it's beautiful.
He's doing everything he can to sell the joint. That's Rich, you are amazing. That is the perfect equivalent of a guy movie with that same storyline without the murder
It's the same
and the cheating.
formula. Yes.
It's just a writer.
Yeah, that was good stuff. He was handing out Norman Rockwell photos. Like this is how normal people look and act. Good stuff. I slipped a bit in. We had a bit.
You had a great bit. You really did have a great rehearsed bit, and that gets weighted much heavier than all the others, so that will really help us.
I actually wrote Smith on my post-it note, like I'm not going to remember my own joke.
So,
all right, dude.
Have a good night.
See ya. Bye.
Later.